Victor Gyökeres is the striker that Arsenal are bringing in. And look, we're not going to shy away from it, guys, or I certainly won't shy away from it. I titled our first ever transfers explained, Sesko's the one. Here's why. And look, I did that for two reasons. A, because I really believe that was the player that Arsenal were going for the most. I also believe that was a player they were going to sign. It hasn't materialised that way. It was also amongst all the research that you've done, Ben, listening to the guys on the Canon podcast, listening to Graham, a lot of people whose opinions I really, really respect. And again, for the 2000th time, I'm saying it this summer, looking at the way Arteta uses his striker and his stubbornness to move away from that particular role, I couldn't help but feel Sesko was the guy that we were going to get. He's gone for Gyökeres, or let's say Arsenal, Berta, everyone as a collective, whether it be because of the fee. We're going to talk about all that, like why we've landed on this striker. It's ultimately ended up being Gyökeres. And it doesn't mean I'm not happy about this. Guys, I was never, I love Sesko, I hate Gyökeres. In fact, going into the window, I wanted Gyökeres more because I wanted the win now striker. But the more I thought about what Arteta does with his forwards, I just thought, I don't even see him getting the best out of this guy. But let's see. Let's talk about how he could, why we've done this deal. And actually, Ben, I want to talk about this first and foremost from the actual deal perspective. £55 million as the kind of base fee, however that's broken up, with add-ons that could take it to 64, 65 million. It's great value, I have to say, for a player with these numbers whose potential to score goals, even though we're talking about a 27-year-old, his potential for it to translate in the Premier League is exciting. Whether it does or not, we'll discuss. But am I being too cynical in saying Arsenal and Berta turned to the cheaper deal of the two and ultimately that's what did it? Or do you think there's more to it as well?
No, I think that's a big part of it. I think for me, the thing with Sesko was, I think his value and Gyökeres' value is probably about the same right now, despite one having the numbers and one not as much. Well, at the same time, when you look at Sesko's goal record for his age, it's very good. You got to bear in mind how young he is. He scored a lot of goals already. But that aside, I think the value of both would be about 60 mil max in pounds. And the issue with Sesko is they were asking for way more than that.
Yeah,
and they
80,
weren't
90,
budging.
right?
Yeah, so if you're not budging, like, we're not just going to go pay that because we've got so much to do. It's a shame because I think he would offer more than Gyökeres in certain areas, but at the same time, the reason that I don't think he's more than 50 is because he's not ready yet. There's a lot of his game that needs developing, and there's a lot of work needed. But at the same time, the potential is big with a player like that. Whereas with Gyökeres, there's the side of him that is like that. It's the mental side. That is a massive bonus with him. And also kind of this guy seems desperate to join the club. Whereas Sesko, it seemed not the case. Like,
I agree.
I mentioned this thing before. I did a post about it, and people are like, why are you making this stuff up? Like, where are you getting this information from? Like, it was literally reported in a few places that we've seen all about Gyökeres wanting to come in, wanting to play for us over other teams and be the main guy. And then you've seen Sesko wasn't sure about whether he could compete with Havertz, and he wanted more game time. And Arteta has said so many times he doesn't want people who he has to convince to join Arsenal. He wants someone that wants to join the club, and ideally us and only us. And we've had that recently. If you look at like Mosquera as well, we're like only wanted Arsenal. They keep seeing that. So there's a lot about it where I'm like, he just becomes a better deal. And if you can, with Gyökeres, if you can get that lower down, which is what we have done, it's a lot lower. It's a lot lower pressure and risk, and because if we go and spend 80 mil on a striker, and you're already worrying about how he's going to translate, as soon as he doesn't score 10 goals by October, people are going to be onto him. You know what I mean? Yeah. The media is going to be saying, "Oh, Arsenal wasted on the same striker that they were telling them that they should buy." So, yeah.
So I agree. I do think, and guys, we'll get onto the positives. Trust me, I know there's a lot to be happy about here with this Gyokeres deal. And I did a live stream on this channel a few days ago because I was really excited. I think it's everything. It's the goals he scores. It's the win now striker that Arsenal have gone for. It's the celebration. Like everything is just, everyone's just. I know everyone's just. There's a hype to this particular signing. There's something about him. There's a ruthlessness, a bit of a brute force about him that I love. There's a journey he's had in football, but there are concerns there, and I'm not even going to run through them all. I think the best piece of content I saw was the different knock. Alex did a really, really, really good breakdown. I mean, the detail and the data and context around the numbers that Gyökeres has. He goes through what's great, and then he goes through, this is maybe a bit concerning. So I do really encourage you all to go watch that video. But essentially, this is a player who's quite unrefined in terms of his first touch, in terms of his general close control and all-round play, but has a almost Haaland-like thirst for goals. Like he's just desperate to be in the right place. He's desperate to just batter people out the way. He gets the ball and he doesn't really care how he looks. He just thinks, get that ball closer to that goal and then ideally in it. And he kind of plays in that beautifully simple way. And I think it's kind of goes back to a slightly more old school way of playing the game, which I like. Real positives for me is that we have seen him in the Championship. And I do think there actually is a nice translation from people who can score goals at a high level for a consistent period in the Championship up into the Premier League. He scored goals in the Champions League 6 and 8, I think, last season. He scored goals in the Nations League and for Sweden and stuff. So, and then of course you've got these ridiculous figures, 52 goals last season for Sporting or something like that, maybe 54. So incredible numbers. What are his particular strengths, Ben? What is he adding, especially over what Kai Havertz gives us? Because if we're playing with one over the other, I think they drastically change the way Arsenal actually approach that game of football.
Yeah, definitely. They're very different in how they play. I think Havertz is more the striker to connect the team, whereas Gyökeres is the one to be the spearhead of the team. He's going to be the guy. He wants to be the guy that is going to get you all the goals, whereas Havertz is more, I'm going to allow everyone else to play, and I'm going to also get some goals, but I'm going to create a lot for everyone else. Like a lot of his runs are unselfish channel runs that are to create for others, whereas Gyökeres makes runs to score. So the purpose behind everything they do is different. One of the things I would say about him that I feel like we've lacked since Van Persie, probably since him, is having a player who the type of mentality. It's like people have this, even if you do like something like sales, right? It's that thing. If as soon as you get your one, you don't stop, and you're never upset. You're obsessed with more, and they don't settle ever. And there aren't many players that have it, and that's one thing that you get from scoring a high volume of goals. They're obsessed with getting more and more. And if you look at someone like Haaland or Salah's another one, when they've had games, they've had certain games when you watch prime Liverpool over the years, when they're winning 4-0 and Salah's like, well, I've only got one goal. Or he's like, oh, I haven't scored yet. So he just doesn't stop. He will keep going because he wants to get more goals. He wants to stat pad and go and get 5 goals or something. And that's something that Gyökeres has got, which is a big positive. He'll want to, if he's on a hat trick, he'll be like, I'm taking the penalty. What do you mean, Tucker? Or remember there was that time when Havertz had this really annoyed me. It's a little thing, but it really annoyed me. I was like, this is the difference here that we don't have. He had the consecutive games. He'd equaled Henry's record for goals at home. I think it was at the Emirates. And then he had the penalty, and they let Trossard take it. And I was like,
who was that against?
That was against Shakhtar, I think.
Right.
And I was like, that's yours. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you take that and you get the record. Because it's a small thing, but you put yourself in the history books of Arsenal Football Club. Like, That's a huge thing. And he was just and like overtaking Henri in a stat, which is mental to think Havertz doing that. But
Yeah.
yeah, but anyways, his
It's a good
strengths.
point. That so it's a very good
Yeah,
point. It's not a small thing. I'm
yeah,
with you. That's the kind of thing that shows like a thirst for goals, like a real hunger to be like, I'm desperate to yet use the word stat pad there, but I like that because I think players probably do think, hold on, this is a chance for me to get more goals, so my record to look even better.
yeah,
They probably
exactly.
do think, I'm feeling it against this team, we're 3-0 up, we're killing them, I want goals here. And some players go, well, okay, but let's keep a structure, let's keep the clean sheet, let's see the game out. And others are going, no, I want to kill him. And
Yeah, yeah,
I agree. I do think we've got too many players that don't think the latter, which is,
yeah,
let's finish them off here and
yeah.
let's get
And
me
it's
some
like
numbers.
because we've had certain games where there's it goes in two different ways. One, they're the type of mentality who will get you the opening goal or they'll get you the winning goal. So, and there's a lot of games when we've started at high intensity where we've created a lot of chances in the first half, but somehow it's gone 0-0 by half time. And I'm like, this isn't a good sign. And then we end up losing 1-0 or something like that. Or you draw the game or, or you're only 1-0 up, but you could have been 4-0 up at half time. Having someone like that changes that. They're not going to accept a 1-0 win because they're obsessed with scoring goals. If they've not
Yeah,
got involved, even if it's 3-0 by half time, it'll be thinking, it's my chance to get 4, 5, 6.
yeah,
And that's the difference with someone like that. So, and we've not had that in so long. It's been one of my biggest frustrations. I want to see us go get a 8, 9, 10-0 game. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because I think we're good enough to. It's not that it's the most important thing. We want to win titles,
yeah,
but I think that little edge is what would change that for us.
yeah,
Being having someone that is like they see a team down that look vulnerable and they're like, I'm taking advantage of them and I'm going to score 6 goals today.
yeah,
Like, no one will do that. So that's a big positive that he's got. The mentality thing as well, it's also his like desire to get better. You hear from coaches, they said like he's constantly staying behind
yeah,
shooting practice and he's obsessed with scoring goals and getting better and how he does that. So if there is a weakness and he's got a good coach and better creative players around him, I think he will put in a lot of effort to try and improve in some of those areas, which is
yeah,
that's really good. But one of his biggest thing for me, or one of them, is his like constant runs, the
mm,
high volume of sprints he does every single game, and that ability to create a bit of fear in the defense. He's never going to just like allow them to be settled. You think of as a defender, if you're seeing that guy next to you, you've got a long day. Like he's not
yeah,
just going to stop running at any point. Um, and I think it was who is it who posted about this? I think it was Billy Carpenter who reposted it, but it's from Scouted. There
okay,
was a graph, and a few people have posted it, so you might have seen it. And it was showing about the volume of his sprints, basically, compared to other strikers, and he's an outlier, and that's a massive thing because
yeah,
it's not someone who's got a bad injury record. He's not got a bad injury
yeah,
record, and he's managing to do such a high volume of that, and Sporting play in such a direct way that he has to do that so much.
yeah,
And if you go, when I watched him, he was at Coventry. He was like, it was him and Gustavo Hamer, just them two, and it was like hoof the ball up to Gyökeres and
yeah,
hopefully make something happen, and he would. And that's the difference there, where the type of service that he gets, it's just running into space like that, and he didn't have a lot of creative players around him.
yeah. So let's go back to the mentality thing for a second. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people have covered this now. How much he wants to play for us, willingness to go on strike, the kind of I'll be the main guy, and I agree. I don't think that poured out of Sesko. I think what I don't want to do, I don't want to praise classless behaviour, and I don't want to sort of be saying that actually, you should be going to war with everyone over what you want. But Sesko's agent, if I'm not mistaken, his stance was, we're not going to basically go to war with Leipzig over this. We hope a fair deal is done. And that was essentially their kind of stance. Whereas Gyökeres and his agent, I think, made it very clear to Arsenal, this is the deal we want. And it pressured Sporting into doing a deal perhaps less than they would have wanted. I can't imagine that when they first entered these negotiations, that they were going to be happy with 65 million all in. So I think Arsenal could consider themselves happy with that, and Gyökeres would have played his part in some way. But the mentality that stands out for me is, I remember 2 games back to back. It was Newcastle and Man United in the Carabao and the FA Cup. And Havertz missed big chances. Not the only one. Timber. There were a few. Martinelli hitting the post. That was just in the Newcastle game. We should have been 2-0 up before we were 2-0 down. Man United, Ødegaard missed a penalty. But I remember Havertz missing 1 or 2 glorious, glorious chances. Actually, maybe 3 across the 2 games. Then he missed a penalty. And look, I want to be careful, because I think you can want to see things and therefore see things. But I remember Havertz's body language quite like, oh, I've missed again. Oh, what am I like? And look, he's a typically more shy character, or certainly a little bit more reserved. And I've seen him score some great goals, like against Bournemouth, where he asked for the ball in the half space, he drove and he rattled it off the post in the back of the net. Not Bournemouth. He got relegated. Southampton. It wasn't Bournemouth. Sorry, Southampton.
Great goal against City.
Yeah, he's scored some. Yeah, I love that goal against City as well, where he kind of. So he's scored some great goals where he's taken. He's shown some personality in his finishes and his want to get that goal in the back of the net. So I just think Gyökeres strikes me as someone who isn't particularly phased by missing a chance. I think he's just got this like obsessive, relentless nature to him, where he'll be like, "Oh, all right, on to the next. Give me the ball again. Like, give me because I'm not going to get that wrong next time." I don't know why that's the character that comes through, and maybe I'm overdoing it. It's a little bit. I mean, I watched him against Arsenal in the Champions League. And actually, it wasn't really happening for him. But he still said, lump the ball to me. I'll still take on Saliba and Kivior again. And I will run and I'll just smash the ball. He ended up smashing the ball off the post. But it was a glimpse into how for so much of the game it wasn't happening. Yet he kind of just on his own almost made something happen.
Forced it, He's got that he'll force it. He'll force the issue a bit. And the thing you mentioned about the chances, like someone like Havertz, I think at that time when he missed a few, he looked physically burnt out. So I think that's a massive part. True. But when he misses a chance, he at times looks like he carries it with him. Whereas I can't go over it. I'd watched one of the players I'd watched. There's 2 players at City I'd watched since they were like way younger. Because I mentioned before to you, I've got like family who are Leeds fans. So I've always been like, looking to see what's going on there. And they almost signed both Haaland and Gvardiol when they were like 16 to 18 sort of age, for like next to nothing. So Haaland was someone I'd watched from like his previous clubs quite a lot. And obviously because his dad had played for Leeds, so there was that link there. That was partly where it came from. But anyway, so when you watch someone like Haaland, right, I remember that game when he first came to City, and it was a Community Shield against Liverpool, and he missed an open goal. And you look at the reaction, he just laughed. And I was like, that there, people don't realise the difference of the player. That is like, he's laughing because he's like, I'm going to get 5 more of these. And it's fun. It's just funny me missing a chance because I'm going to score 5 goals. Like, he's that confident that is very arrogant, and he's always had that about him. That's where the difference. When people compare Šeško with like Haaland, they're similar traits, but they're very different. And Haaland's always had an inevitable finishing about him from young, which Šeško doesn't have. He's got that ball striking, which he doesn't. But that's a whole other thing. But Gyökeres has got a bit of that. Yeah,
it does come through. It actually does. And actually, I'm taking a quote from another sport, and I think it's an Agassi quote, but I might be wrong. He said, to be a great tennis player, you have to have a terrible memory. And I think I heard it watching Wimbledon these last 2 weeks. I thought, what an amazing quote. I think it was an Agassi quote. Forgive me if I'm wrong, if anyone in the comments knows. But I kind of think you can apply that to strikers. I think if there's one position on the pitch, just you have to move on from your errors quicker than anywhere else. In defence, even if a bad pass back leads to a goal, there's not a lot you can do. I mean, that's a situation you're rarely in. Same with a goalkeeper. Even in midfield, you give the ball away or you play a bad pass. Actually, very rarely is it kind of the worst thing that can happen. But as a striker, you miss chances, especially at Arsenal, where there's so much pressure to put the ball in the back of the net and teams defend so much. You have to be able to just go, yeah, oh, well, all right, let's go again. And I think we've got a lot of players, Martinelli, Havertz, Erdegaard, I think, and I mean, I'm going on tour next week, and I don't know if I'll see them at open training, so I'm not be too harsh on them. But there's me going, hey, no,
hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm joking. You think
video.
that's the kind of, that's not the access we get. I wish we did, but my point being, like, there's a little bit of they do this, a bit of like a look up, like I missed again. Oh, I don't know what it is. It's almost like a slight feeling sorry for themselves. And I don't know if I'm being too harsh. I just think we could, or Saka, I don't get that at all. If Saka misses a chance, I just think he kind of just gets on with it.
Apart from that Ipswich game, do you remember that Ipswich game? I was getting annoyed because I was like, don't sub him off until he scores, because he looks like it's affecting him. And I was like, he needs to get a goal today for it to, because it's the first time I've seen that where I felt like he was carrying it, and he missed a load of chances because he was getting in really good positions. But no, I agree completely.
Well, do you think this is confirmation bias? Do you think this is a little bit me looking for something? Like, I'm looking for something to praise Gyökeres for, so I'm looking for something that maybe others don't have. Am I overdoing it a little bit?
No, not necessarily. I do think, because it's something that we don't have in our team, like a natural goal scorer apart from Trossard. Trossard and Martinelli are goal scorers, but they're different type of goal scorers. Martinelli's very specific in one specific scenario, and we don't play to that strength. And then Trossard is probably, him in one area are best like ball strikers, I'd say. And and he gets off a lot of shots. He's got that selfishness, but he's still not on that same level as some of the other guys. So no, I don't think so at all. But I think that's why, even though we're not getting the guy that is the main one, why we still like someone like Gyökeres. And the big positive as well is the fact that this looks like Berta given an alternative, and Arteta trusting Berta.
I agree
in his alternative, which is a big positive. Like, Arteta was, a lot of places said that he was a big part of the hiring process of Berta and other people, and he really liked him. So this is a big positive that the two are working together, and not this whole thing online about one likes them, one likes the other, and they're going to go in at war about it. Like, that was reported at one point. So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, behind Jurgen Klopp, there was a Michael Edwards. It's things like that. It's
one of the best.
Right. And you hear the reports, Klopp wanted Brandt and was given Salah, I think, or Mane. I can't remember which one. Those are the kind of things that, that there has to be a team of people. Arsenal are a multi-million-pound business, right? There is billion-pound business. There are so many moving parts. There are so many members of staff. There are so many people, from literally the youngest player in the academy up to the most senior, or the CEO, or the owner, whoever, to the very top. Like, everyone makes Arsenal Football Club, and it won't ever just be Mikel Arteta the reason we win or the reason we don't win. So having someone like Andrea Berta, who is incredibly trusted and has already made a big old impression in this window, I think is a huge thing for Arsenal. And I think it's great. And I think you're right. Arteta might have had a Sesko, but I bet would have wanted a Sesko. But I bet there was a meeting where Berta said to Arteta, okay, explain to me why you want this guy. Okay, fine. I will do my best to make that deal happen. What's the deadline for me to then pull the trigger on the guy I want, because this one's not happening? And actually, would you still be happy with this guy in a different way? And Arteta probably would have gone, yeah, I am happy with him, but I prefer this guy. Maybe I'm just making that up, or
Yeah,
maybe, as I suggested to Curtis on AFTV, and he quite liked this theory. Maybe it was Gyökeres all along, and the media play was to bring the price down, and actually it was all part of Berta's game. Who knows? But Berta is 6 signings in by the 15th, 16th of July, which is incredible. So I want to land last couple minutes on just this final point. Which players are going to benefit the most from having Gyökeres in this team? And I want to just chat about one who I think his game's going to have to change drastically. And for me, that's Mikel Merino. And very random, because I think he'll be a squad player. But I think Merino was someone
he's
who...
not going to be playing striker, yeah.
Well, he won't be playing up front, firstly. Secondly, I think he's going to have to become quite used... Merino disappointed me in build-up last year. I think he's a better technician than we saw. I think we talked about this on the pod a few weeks ago. I think he's better on the ball than we saw last season. And I don't think he's going to be playing a role where he's just simply attacking the back post, ghosting into attacking areas, because I think Gyökeres will be doing a lot of that. And I think we'll all be playing a little bit more to supply a player like that. I think he's got to become a little, especially if Eze comes, he's off the left, he's tucking on the inside. I think Merino has got to get more comfortable in build up, and I think it's going to affect his role a little bit too. Actually, we see him and his defensive traits a little bit deeper next season. But the others that I'm interested in are Rice, Erdegaard, Saka. How do you think their roles and how do you think they are impacted by the signing of a Victor Gyökeres?
Yeah, so the thing on Merino, the thing that'll be interesting is he's got a really good connection with Zubamendi whenever they play together with the national team or at Real Sociedad, and I can see that working really well. And also, it's interesting you mentioned him because when you look at Gyökeres, one of his weaknesses would be aerially. He's not the best. Sure. And when you look at someone like Merino, that's a big strength. Yeah. And a lot of the time, one of the reasons why him and Havertz work really well is from in midfield is having a late runner means the defense is already set and they've got the momentum coming into the box, so they can get the jump ahead of them. And having someone like that might actually help because you've then got Gyökeres who's going to make the running behind, but then once you've settled there, you've then got the late run from midfield that Saka can cross into, who's actually going to be more of a threat in the box.
Yeah, right.
So maybe there are games where he starts there over Rice, but it's good that we've got the options to rotate. But definitely the interesting thing with, I think Odegaard is one of the biggest.
Ben, can I cut you quickly? Sorry. Just before we go on to Odegaard. You're so right. I mean, actually, my read on that was completely wrong on Merino. I explained why I thought he'd play a bit deeper, but you're actually right. If you've got Gyökeres, who through his strength, power, movement, want to score goals, the fear he might strike into defenders, if he himself is taking up a load of, if he's taking up attention in the box because he wants the ball to feed in behind, you're actually right. That suits a better aerial threat in Merino almost more for that back post run. So actually, I never saw it that way. Sorry, carry on. But that's a different perspective. I didn't think of it like that. You're right.
And the other side to it, you mentioned his build-up. One of the biggest positives with Zubamendi is he's able to be on an island by himself and be perfectly fine. And it allows you to have your other two midfielders positioned a lot higher. One maybe slightly closer and one right in the pockets, or even both high up in the pockets. And with the way we play, if you've got at least one of your fullbacks inverting into midfield, let's say Lewis Skelly, he would have Lewis Skelly and Zubamendi side by side. One is very progressive and will play that pass, and Zubamendi's more, he'll go around to go through or he'll time it better. But both of them can play really incisive passes.
Yeah, they can.
And that would then allow the other midfielders to be positioned high up. And who that is changes the type of impact that will have. If it's Merino or Havertz, it's the box presence that they provide and the late runs. If it's Rice, it's the constant runs that overlaps, shooting, making runs in behind, his ball striking, everything that he provides there. Or if you've got an Eze, You've got someone who that can receive the ball in the pockets on the half turn and then get off shots from there, which we don't
Yeah.
have much of. I think the only person that we've got who could do that is Waneri. So that's huge that you've got that. And the other person that I think has got the biggest benefit from this, mixing with Zubimendi, it's the two together for me. Having him as the six and then a new left winger and striker is Odegaard, because my criticism with him last season, one, I think he was carrying an injury and
Yeah.
he looked like he was really struggling physically for a while. Even how he would strike the ball, just didn't strike it the same,
Sure.
didn't look as balanced. But on the same side, he had too much responsibility. His
Yeah.
role needed changing. He was
Yeah.
the guy running build-up play. He was the guy with the most progressive passes, but he
Yeah.
was also the guy who we were expecting to score goals in the final third and be the one unlocking defenses. And then on top of that, pressing from the front, leading the press. Like, build up is here, leading the press is here, so he has to cover all this ground as well, and he has to progress the ball as well. It's too much,
Yeah.
and he burnt out because of it. So
Yeah.
you change the role, you put Zubimendi there, means he can do the control inside. Odegaard can stay high, and when he's higher up, you give him runners, and he'll play those passes a lot quicker. He didn't
Yeah.
have that option before, and now we will.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see if Erdegaard comes to life a little bit more. But also, I just thought Erdegaard of 23-24 was one of the best midfielders in the world. I know that's a crazy statement, but wow, actually it's not. He was in the Ballon d'Or list. He was in
Yeah,
Premier
no, he
League
was.
Team of the Year.
Yeah.
And you know, I look at next season and I just think if Arteta harnesses the best out of Erdegaard, Zubimendi, Rice with a front three of, and I keep chucking Eze in, let's really hope it happens, but Eze or someone of Eze's quality with Gyökeres and Saka in the front three. And then your backups to that are Waneri, Norgard, Marino, Madueke, Havertz, Martinelli. There's depth there, genuine rotational depth. There's real quality, and you know, and I think with depth comes unpredictability. With unpredictability comes an easier task for all the players out there. And I think when you're right, it's not just the amount that Erdegaard had to do, but also everyone had figured it out. I mean, us as YouTubers had figured it out. You know, the coaches and analysts had absolutely figured out what Erdegaard was going to do. So I think it just gives us a nice variety to our play. All right, we're going to leave it there on Victor Gyokeres then. He's an Arsenal player. Everyone will be doing the celebration at the Emirates. I think sometimes, I don't know, you know, this might wear off by November and then you're going, ugh, we got this wrong. But I do think there's something to be said for just the hype around a signing, the excitement of having gone for that guy. It sounds so stupid, but having the Emirates all doing this, it's really silly things that could just strike an energy, that could just kind of get everyone going again. Like, we're going to see our £65 million striker today, you know, and it's just little things like that that I think can almost just, inject an energy into the season that I think Arsenal really need. And I think we went into the last two seasons, maybe because of other tournaments or whatever, just a little bit flat. And I think if we can go in with that real spark, especially with the opening 6 games we got, it can make a real difference. And look, 6 signings look like they're through the door. So well done, Andrea Berta. We'll leave it there. Any final thoughts, Ben? Or
yeah, I mean, just a little bit on him. I think there's definitely some sides where, like, you know, for a club like us, how I think the technical side to his game isn't quite there. How he shields the ball isn't the best.
sure.
There are still a lot of red flags with him, and areas that is the reason why he wasn't my preference. But with us still going for him, the biggest thing is, forget what everyone has said in the media. The striker is nowhere near as important as the midfield balance being better and the left winger. I think the biggest issue we've had is creating in central areas, central progression, and the midfield signs that we've had help that. Then creativity in the final third, that and the left winger really help. And having a striker who is a willing runner and will constantly look to get off a lot of shots, that will all help that. So the
Totally
striker
agree.
was like way lower for me in
Yeah.
terms of they've got to be perfect.
Yeah.
Which is why I was almost, accepting of a Sheshko. Because I said to you,
Sure.
Sheshko's less ready than
Yeah.
Gyökeres, but
Yeah.
I was accepting of it. That's because I think it's nowhere near as important as
Sure.
people are making out. But yeah, that's all I would say. There's definitely some areas where you're like, that might not translate the best. Um, but generally, I think he does offer some elite qualities that
Yeah.
could be
Absolutely.
huge for us.
Yeah. Well, let's see, everyone. We'll hopefully get a look at him next week when he's playing in these friendlies. Who knows? You might
Yeah,
even, apparently, there's rumours of a Watford behind closed doors friendly with maybe some of these players will be playing. So let's have a little look. Ben, a big thank you to you as always. 2 this week, but had to be done with the 2 big signings. Arteta's got his £50 million winger and a £60 million striker. So there we go. It's the 2 areas of the pitch we really wanted addressing. We want a little bit more. But let's see. After 6 signings, we're asking for a 7th. How greedy. But let's see what happens. Ben, been an absolute pleasure, mate. And yeah, we'll try for everyone watching. I leave on Sunday, but we'll try and get something recorded to come out next week. But let's see. We've got these 2. So if we can't get it done, we can't get it done. But if I can record something out there, we might do that. Anyway, we'll see. Ben, big thanks, mate. And we'll catch you all very soon.